So I remember thinking, what is this stupid sport? You know, you would see the ball coming towards you, think you're going to trap it, it would hit a bumpy bit of grass, fly over you. I've got so much to thank Janet for. She saw a lot in me and challenged me, pushed me.
In my humble opinion, you will make national standard in Scotland, so you will go to a Commonwealth Games, and I would put money on you making it to the Olympics.
Scotland are a nation of absolute fighters, and yeah, I'm always very proud when I pull on that jersey. Playing at home in front of friends, family, a lot of Scottish fans wanting us to do well, and we were just determined to go out and win gold. A lot of times you see these people only on TV, so you think they're sort of superhuman, and I think one of the massive learnings that I found stepping into it is that, you know, these people are human. For me personally, going from being that young player that, you know, was scrapping for a place to then being one of the senior players in the team has been such a change. I was in the car outside, opened it in the car, and then it wasn't until she came out of the shops with the shopping and was sort of loading up the car, I just said, Mum, there's good news. If someone said you're going to go to the Olympics in 14 years' time, I would probably not have believed them.
This is where I am because of whatever, and this is what you could be, and such an inspiration and an ambassador, not just in the borders but throughout Scotland as well.
I'm Sarah Robertson, and this is my journey. I actually only first picked up a stick age 13 when I went to high school. Before that I'd been a bit of a footballer and a rugby player, and then I went to high school and it was sort of, okay, boys you go and play rugby, girls you go and play hockey. So I remember thinking, what is this stupid sport? But I'll go and give it a shot, and yeah, I just remember picking it up, played on grass at the time, so it was all just about smashing the ball as far as you could up the pitch and chasing it. Definitely was not my favourite sport to be playing, but quite quickly that changed, and I saw that a lot of elements of football and rugby, you know, were sort of transferable. Obviously, particularly football, it's an 11-a-side game. Even though the skills are different, it's still 11 players on the pitch, passing, moving, that sort of thing. So, no, I came round to it quite quickly. Definitely the opposite of structured, especially playing on grass. Honestly, it was literally smash the ball up the pitch, fast people, chase it, try and get it in the goal. You know, you would see the ball coming towards you, think you're going to trap it, it would hit a bumpy bit of grass, fly over you. Yeah, it was definitely good for training hand-eye coordination because it was pretty unpredictable. Yeah, I played football and hockey all through high school. So yeah, a lot of travelling as a kid up to Edinburgh. I played for Hibernian Ladies and actually played for Scotland as well for football. So it was a busy calendar, school plus hockey plus football. And yeah, then it eventually came to a point where I was about 16 when the commitments were becoming too much of a clash at the weekend, and eventually I had to choose. I remember at the time, I think this would have been about 2009, 2010, and I was lucky enough to grow up in an area where Janet Jack, who was an ex-GB hockey player, she was my first hockey coach. So she'd been part of the 2000 cycle for Melbourne, and you know, I remember her sort of floating the idea that Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games was coming up, and you know, at the time I was only probably 15, 16, but obviously by the time the games came round I had an outside chance for it. So I remember her sort of dangling that carrot and me thinking, you know, if I had the chance to go to Commonwealth Games and represent Scotland, you know, what a great opportunity that is. And you know, that just sort of sense of hockey being an Olympic Commonwealth sport, you know, playing at the absolute pinnacle, just opened the door for hockey really.
And she popped on to hockey one night in her football shorts, in her football Astra boots, and took to the pitch with the other girls, and I was just like, wow, she's very aware of the pitch. She, you know, tactically very aware. And then I was like, and she's a real athlete. You know, she really was a very good athlete as well. But not only was she a good athlete, she was mentally very strong. I know she was taking no nonsense from anybody on the pitch. And I was like, oh, technically not quite there yet, but you know, you saw something in her, which I'm sure every other coach who has coached Sarah in every other sport saw. You were just going, that is talent, you know, and that has, you know, she has so much potential to be very good. I hope she chooses hockey. The two words I would say about Sarah would be demanding and challenging. And that's because she demanded a lot of herself and she challenged me a lot, because she said, well, I want to be able to do this and I want to be able to do this. And because of that mentality of the I can do and I will do, she was really easy. She had that natural hand-eye coordination that, only comes to, a few people. But it didn't take long at all. And then I remember sitting in Largs with Callum MacLeod, and now Sarah would be maybe 15, 16, and he was the performance director at that time, and sitting with me, and I knew Callum very well, and he was going, who's that? And I was going, well, that's Sarah. She's just come from football. She's just, just coming into hockey. And he was like, she's going to be good. And I was like, I know.
As I said, it was completely potluck for me that Janet was my coach. I live in a very small part of Scotland. Not many Scottish international players go on to represent Great Britain. So the fact that I just rocked up to the local club and, Janet was the coach was an absolute blessing for me. She is so passionate, so invested in coaching now. I've got so much to thank Janet for. She saw a lot in me and challenged me, pushed me, and has remained throughout my whole career a huge sense of support for me.
I remember sitting on the backboard with her after a session one night, and it was cold and it was bleak and it was dark, and she asked me the question, what do I do? Do I go down the football route or do I go down the hockey route? And I was just going, that I can't answer that for you. That has to be your decision. However, in my humble opinion, you will make national standard in Scotland. So you will go to a Commonwealth Games, and I would put money on you making it to the Olympics. So yeah, back in the day when she was 15 in her football strip, I was pretty sure she was going to make it.
My first taste of playing for Scotland was the under-16 team. So in Scotland they have a thing called the Inter-Districts, which is like a regional tournament. So I went to that first when I was about 14, 15, playing for the South region. Back in that day, that was about 10, 12 years ago, we would always do pretty poorly, the South. It was tended to be dominated by East and West, which is Edinburgh, Glasgow. They had a lot of talent coming through there, so it was always a tough tournament for the South. But I remember first getting picked up from that tournament, and then 2009, 2010 got my first opportunity to play for Scotland under-16s as one of the only sort of players from that South region. So getting mixed in with all these girls from Edinburgh, Glasgow that all kind of knew each other and played hockey for quite a long time. So initially it was quite daunting, but a lot of those girls are now some of my best friends still, and we've played for Scotland for the last sort of 12 years together, which has been awesome. When I got my first Scottish senior cap, the Scotland team was very experienced at that time, so there wasn't a lot of young people coming through. It was quite an established senior team, so some of them were quite scary, but I luckily knew a few of them from playing at Edinburgh Uni. Sam Judge was the coach, and I also had the benefit of playing under Linda Clement, who was the captain at the time, so they created a really good atmosphere. I got my first cap in Glasgow against South Africa, who were over preparing for the London 2012 Olympics, so we had a test series against them. I think I scored on my first cap, so it was it was a great day, and we played a few games, and I had an amazing night out at the end of the 5 games, so it was a great start. Yeah, it means a huge amount. I think my family are all from Scotland. As far as the history books go back, I've grown up supporting Scotland. I have a really strong sense of being Scottish. When you hear the bagpipes, all that, it really get the goosebumps there. It's hard to describe, to be honest. I absolutely love playing for Scotland. It gives you that extra bit between your teeth. Scotland are a nation of absolute fighters, and I'm always very proud when I pull on that jersey.
And she's also very honest. So I remember she wasn't selected to play for Scotland in the Europeans in Belgium in 2013, and we thought that she would probably go. She'd never been dropped. She'd always been successful in everything she did. And then she wasn't selected to go to the Europeans in 2013. And I remember her saying to me, she's saying, "That's my fault." She said, "I took the foot off the gas." She said, "I thought that I was going to go." And she said, "That will never happen again. I will never let that happen to me again. I will always strive to improve and develop and be the best." And yeah, so now when I watch her on the pitch, I just go, she so deserves to be where she is.
I think playing in the 2014 Commonwealth Games, for me, that was absolutely epic. Ever since I mentioned that carrot being dangled, I was so hungry to go to that 2014 Games. So when I got picked to go to that as a youngster, I was 20, 21 when I went to that, in quite a senior, experienced Scottish team, playing at home, first Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. I just remember having the best summer ever. The whole experience was just absolutely epic. The village was amazing. We had such a great tournament. All my friends' family were there. That's a real standout for me, Glasgow 2014, yeah. In the last game, I think we were playing India in the 5th, 6th playoff, and I think 2014 Commonwealth Games was the last time that it was only 16 at the Commonwealth Games. It's now changed to 18. So I actually, as one of the youngsters, was the person that was to go in goals if the goalie got injured. So one of my most distinct memories is warming up for the 5th, 6th playoff. Amy Gibson was in goals and she hurt herself in the warm-up. So she went off inside. I got pulled to the side in the warm-up. The goalie coach is saying to me, "Don't worry about where your clearance goes, just focus on keeping the ball out the goal." So I was literally preparing to be standing in the goal. And then luckily Amy Gibson came back out about 10 minutes before the game started. She had an injection and managed to play through the game. But yeah, weirdly, I think that's one of the most standout moments, standing on this pitch in Glasgow with like 8,000-9,000 fans, me thinking, oh my God, I'm about to be put in the goal. The 2019 Euros that we won in Glasgow, that was just icing on the cake in terms of turning up at that, playing at home, 5 or 6 of my absolute closest friends and family there to watch, winning the whole tournament, playing for Scotland, absolutely epic. Heading into the tournament, we were pretty clear on we want to get back to the A Division. As you say, we got relegated in 2017, which was a massive bummer. It was a really disappointing end to that Euros for us. But if I'm honest, I think it was a blessing in disguise. I think after that tournament, we got a new coach. A lot of players retired, so it certainly felt like a fresh-faced Scotland team at the 2019 Euros, and it felt like a really good atmosphere within the team. So that there wasn't necessarily pressure to go back up, it was more opportunity. And I just remember, I didn't actually have the chance to train with the team that much because we were playing Pro League down here. But I just remember turning up, it was a really relaxed, comfortable environment, and it worked. We ended up having 2 of the best weeks ever, and to get promoted but also to win gold was just epic. Yeah, that was the thing. I think we won the semi-final, which is the main sort of pressurised game. That's the one for promotion, and then you're sort of in that situation where the final is just a glory match essentially. But obviously we were playing at home. We'd had the disappointment of getting relegated in 2017. We had this new squad playing at home in front of friends, family, a lot of Scottish fans wanting us to do well. And we were just determined to go out and win gold. And it was a really competitive game against Italy. But credit to the team, we went out and absolutely smashed it, and everyone played so well. And it was just such a great day, which then rolled into a great night. We had this Scottish flag that I think we'd taken from the person that had marched us out for the medal ceremony. And I remember being in a nightclub at night in Glasgow, and the flag appeared, and we were flying this Scottish flag, and we managed to get all the coaches to come out, and it was just such a great way to end the tournament. I'm lucky. I think my parents have travelled across the world, to be honest, to watch me play. Some trips better than others. They've come to Scotland Europeans, and literally the middle of nowhere in Russia. They've had a better trip coming to Australia, the Gold Coast. You know, I'm lucky that my mum and dad have followed me around the world watching me play. So in that sense, it's not that different. But I think just having these sort of, you know, mass Scotland fans there is completely different. You know, people that you've maybe played club with or you've just met at some point along your journey, for them to be there and, you know, to look up and see Scotland flags and just everyone wanting you to do well, it just creates such a special atmosphere. As someone that's always pretty ambitious, it had always been in my mind to play for Great Britain. After the Commonwealth Games, I'd actually taken a year out of uni, so I was over playing in Belgium at the time when the call-up came from Danny to come to training. So originally I had this idea planned, you know, go and play a season in Belgium. Maybe the next shot for Team GB would be after the 2016 Olympics. So in that sense, it kind of came at a point where I might have not necessarily been expecting it, but I think it had come off the back of the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. So yeah, it meant I trialled, you know, sort of September to Christmas time 2014, and it meant a lot of travelling back and forth from Belgium. So it wasn't necessarily the experience that I had planned across there, but obviously was absolutely delighted come Christmas time to be offered a contract as part of the centralised programme. So it was all a bit of a whirlwind on the back of Glasgow, but a good one. Yeah, as you say, really similar in terms of, you know, stepping into quite a senior established team. It definitely was not as easy stepping into the GB team. I think for home nations players, it's always more difficult, you know, stepping into the GB squad. You know, the dominant force is always England, or it always has been. So you definitely feel like one of the outsiders that's stepping into that. No one really knows you either. You know, you've not come through the system as well. So it was definitely, you know, more daunting than stepping into the Scotland team. But you know, it was a moving machine at that time, and it was kind of, you know, join the train, or Danny used to always say, you know, the train's moving, get on it if you want to be on it. So I remember just, you know, sort of going all in. It definitely was a big jump and quite intimidating at times, but I learned so much in that sort of year and a half period in the lead up to Rio, to step on the pitch alongside people that, you know, you've worshipped playing hockey for so long, you know, Kate Richardson-Walsh, Alex Danson, you know, just absolute heroes of the game, to be stepping out alongside them. My mum and dad had made the trip across. Yeah, it was just a really, really special occasion. A lot of times you see these people only on TV, so you think they're sort of superhuman, and I think one of the massive learnings that I found stepping into it is that, you know, these people are human. They're extraordinary humans, but, you know, they are human at the end of the day, and, you know, if they're to be your teammates, you know, you need to be able to interact with them, and, you know, they're just people at the end of the day. And I think having that sort of human connection with people who you perceive as heroes of the game was so important. You know, finding your feet in the team and realising that, you know, everyone plays their part in that team and everyone is equal. The team was kind of in motion for a couple of months in the lead up to selection, so I kind of saw it coming in a way. I think it made me, you know, really take a step back and look and reflect on how I'd got on in the programme and, you know, where I was at in my career. And, you know, even though it was, you know, really crap to not be part of the squad that went out to Rio, it certainly made me reflect and learn a huge amount about myself. And if I'm honest, I think I probably came in slightly too late, I think, to that team. You know, as I said, the train was moving, and I think it was a really experienced team, and I probably took a little bit longer to find my feet in that environment as one of the sort of younger players, especially coming from Scotland. It took a while for me to settle in that environment and really sort of back myself and believe in myself. Yeah, I think mixed emotions is a great way to put it. I remember watching the final and the girls winning and being so happy for people in that team, especially close friends of mine that, you know, had become Olympic champions. But equally, you know, the stark reality that you're sitting back home on your sofa watching it, and what had potentially been small differences in the lead up to selection, you know, now these people are Olympic gold medalists, and, you know, as I say, you're sitting back home. So definitely mixed emotions, but now that I'm older and I've had a lot of time to reflect and learn from that process, 100% so happy and pleased for the girls that went and did that, and I think it's an amazing thing for British hockey.
I learned that from her very early on. She didn't want to be better, she wanted to be the best, and if she couldn't be the best, then she would work a way to do it. And in my career as a coach, I don't know if there has ever been another player like Sarah who has never made an excuse. They've never gone, I didn't do it, it didn't happen to me for me because of this, it didn't happen to me because of this. It's always, it didn't happen because it was my fault, and therefore I will make sure that doesn't happen again. I will make sure that I put myself in the best position possible.
It'd always been my plan to go back to Edinburgh Uni for a year after Rio to finish my degree. I was studying law there, so the requirement was that I had to go back to essentially complete a lot of the modules. So it was always the plan to go back to Edinburgh. But I remember feeling really despondent after not getting picked. It'd been such a hard ride, a hard year and a half, joining the team, kind of being a little bit on the outskirts, not getting selected, moving down south, age 21, leaving uni. It'd been, kind of chucked in at the deep end. And I certainly remember, just coming back to uni in a lot more of a comfortable environment, and thinking, was that necessarily for me? It had been so tough that, was it worth it, essentially? But then as the year went on, playing for Edinburgh Uni again, getting back in the Scotland team, 2017 going to the European A Division in Amsterdam, finding my feet and building myself up again over the course of the year. And sort of by the April-May time, the following year, just remember thinking, I am a good hockey player and I'm capable of being in that environment. I'm capable of being one of the better players. Back yourself, go down and smash it. So after the Euros in 2017, I went back down to trial again, and I remember Danny saying to me, you've been a standout player, not even a trialist, but just a standout. I just had this complete, all or nothing attitude. Just go for it. Back yourself, give it your best shot, whatever happens, happens. And that just sort of sense of freedom and determination just, had really sparked off the last, what has been like 3 or 4 amazing years being back down on the programme. Again, that's been such a not difficult, but such a crazy transition for me, going from being one of the youngest ones who was, learning loads last cycle, to then suddenly being one of the more experienced players in the team. Obviously a lot of the girls finished after Rio, so suddenly people like myself who've, sitting around mid to late 20s with 100 odd caps, you're suddenly one of the senior players. So for me personally, going from being that young player that, was scrapping for a place, to then obviously still fighting for a place, but, being one of the senior players in the team has been such a change. And it took a while for me to sort of step into that leadership role. I know I sort of still saw myself as, one of the younger ones who was still just trying to keep up, when actually it was, no, you're the one to set the standards. So I think, it took me probably a summer to realise that, and then I think since then, to be honest, I've really embraced a leadership role and being one of the senior players and getting a lot of pitch time, playing in a lot of games, and embraced that challenge. The first one that probably springs to mind is playing at the Stoop. That was absolutely epic. As someone that's grown up as a rugby fan as well, to play there, I think it was 12,000 people that maybe came to watch. I had a lot of friends and family from Scotland and from London that came to watch, and that was just such an epic celebration of hockey. I absolutely loved that. Other standout moments, definitely the qualifiers. That was obviously a really pressurised time for us as a group, making sure we secured our place in Tokyo. So there was a really sort of intense build-up to those matches in November 2019. So then, when that went well and we qualified for Tokyo, that was a really epic weekend. A few of the younger players have commented to myself about that. 1 minute it's laughing and joking, the next minute the whistle blows and it's like, right, let's get to it. I think I enjoy having that balance. I enjoy, having the light-hearted moments, and I think sport is for everyone to enjoy. I think it's good to have that sort of light-hearted side to it. But I think I'm a competitive person. I'm driven. As soon as there's something to play for or competition, then it's okay. No joking now. Let's get to it. So I definitely am a bit of a fierce competitor on the pitch. I've played the majority of my career as a midfielder. Playing for Scotland and initially for GB, and then over the last sort of 2-3 years playing up front. And I think it's definitely a different mindset. You get less ball, more running, more expected in terms of potentially scoring goals. And I think it's taken me a while to sort of adjust to that. I think over the last year or so I've really just embraced that challenge. It's not somewhere where I think I'm most natural, but I think the coaches obviously see that I've got the skill set to do it, so it's kind of like, let's just go for it. I think Katie and Mark have done a lot of work with us as a group up there. It's not necessarily about who's the individual that puts the ball in the net. It's, as a group, how are we working up there? And I think as a front group, we've made huge progress over the last couple of years. And I'm lucky to be the one that's putting the ball in a lot of the time, but a lot of the time that's through good work from a lot of other people, and I'm just tapping it in on the back post. I travelled back to Scotland for the day to be around friends and family. I didn't tell my mum when selection was, because obviously we'd had bad news in 2016 and it was all quite stressful, so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to open the email in my own time, and then whatever the result is, I'll speak to my parents after it. So I was with my mum, and my mum suggested that we go to Aldi, and I didn't want to, be too difficult about it, because I didn't want to highlight that selection was coming at that time. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'm probably just going to wait in the car. So she was actually in the supermarket, I was in the car outside, opened it in the car, and then it wasn't until she came out the shops with the shopping and was sort of loading up the car, I just said, Mum, there's good news. And we had a big hug in the car park and drove home and told my dad and phoned my gran, and then my brother came down from Edinburgh and we had, champagne in the garden. So it was a special day with family. My parents have never pushed me into anything. I think they always just want the best for me and support me. I think they saw how gutted I was not to be picked in 2016, and I think they just didn't want that to happen again, and I think they know how hard I've worked. So it was nice for them as well. They've travelled the world to watch me play, and I think they know how much as a family we've put into it and how much I've put into it. So it was a nice moment for us all to share together.
She's never too proud to go, I'm at home, what are you doing, can I come and help you? And she turns up at the pitch, and for some of our very young, young players, they maybe don't know, but for our aspiring athletes and for, those with emerging talent, she comes along and, she demonstrates and she works, and it's never a look at me, it's always a this is where I am because of whatever, and this is what you could be, and such an inspiration and an ambassador, not just in the borders but throughout Scotland as well.
I think one thing we speak a lot about as a team is, going out there and being proud of what we produce. I think that's something that I hugely respect about our coaching team. It's not always just the result. It's, are we proud of how we played? So I think that's something that's important to the group. But obviously, we're all hungry for medals and hungry for success. And I think, we're going out there to win a medal. I think this Olympics is like no other. A lot of teams have not played each other. People have been preparing in stealth mode. So, you kind of feel like anything can happen. And I think as a group, we've made such huge progress over the last couple of years, and we seem to have some really good momentum off the back of the Pro League. So, there's a kind of sense of anything can happen, and, let's go and get a medal out there.
I'll feel immensely pleased for her, incredibly pleased for her, and she should be very, very proud of herself when she walks out there. I think the whole of Scotland will be behind her and feeling, feeling that, this is not a dream. This is reality. And if you make your dreams, you set your dreams there, then, you know, just go get them. Go, you know, go and grab them.
Yeah, I think I've always been determined, and if if that carrot's dangled, then I'll chase it with everything that I've got. So, I feel like I've put everything into it to make this happen. No, definitely, if I was looking back to picking up the stick on the grass pitch at Selkirk High School, then, if someone said you're going to go to Olympics in 14 years' time, I would probably not have believed them, but equally, I probably would have known that I would have worked hard and made it possible. So, it's been some journey, and I'm looking forward to continuing it.